Hello YouTube video watchers, welcome to our YouTube channel. This YouTube video is brought to you by Kangaroo Time. So at Kangaroo Time we do three very specific things. We automate the business, so all your payments, all your billing, clocking in, clocking out, keeping track of time with your teachers, everything to do with the business we automate with our child care management system. We also have a classroom automation platform which gives your teachers nudges and prompts at point of care. So feedings, diaper changes, and the ability to communicate with your parents. We also have a world-class parent engagement platform that hardwires your parents and families into the early education experience. So please check us out and enjoy the video. Thanks everybody. Hey everybody, how are we doing today? Where's everybody
We're good in
coming
Texas.
from? Texas, we've got Texas up on the board. We've got Long Beach, California right here. Where else?
I just saw someone from Hawaii, so I'm kind of jealous.
You know what? We need more installs in Hawaii. I'll come and do them personally. All right, we'll get started here in a couple minutes. Thanks everybody. We had a record registration again. Beth, you're kind of popular.
That's awesome.
It's great.
Well, I'm so excited to be here and share with your audience. I hear great things about your company and your program, and I know you have really been entering into the conversation with so many early childhood professionals. And as we were chatting earlier, I listened to your webinar that you did yesterday with the data and the facts, and some really eye-opening stuff that, you know, a lot of people in our industry, we don't always see the data and the facts in education. So I really appreciate the effort that your team took to bring that to light, because we all need to know it.
No, thank you. It's been this last, gosh, what are we coming up on?
Week 10.
Weeks? This is week 10.
I think it's 9 week 10. I don't know. I've lost track, Scott. I've lost track.
Yeah, so whatever it is, the last the last dozen of weeks or so have been really interesting. And we've seen, I think I kick off our podcast or our programs, our content with my utter amazement and, just being humbled every time I speak to our owners, and the fortitude and the willingness to pivot. But yeah, it's been a really interesting time in my career for sure, but one of the most rewarding to connect with each and every one of you. So let's get started. So hi everybody, I'm Scott Wayman. I'm the CEO and founder of Kangaroo Time. Thank you all so much for joining us for this webinar with Beth Cannon. Beth is an international speaker, workshop presenter, and entrepreneur. We'll get started in a little bit. As everybody's joining, I think we're still winding up the participant count. But a little bit about Kangaroo Time. So we know a lot of you who are new to the webinars may not know who we are. We've had people calling in asking us, so what kind of center is Kangaroo Time? We're not a center. We are a child care management software company. And we do three things. So we automate the business and the billing and all the fun stuff. We automate the classroom. So at point of care, we give teachers our application on a tablet that helps them in the moment with nutrition and feedings and diaper changes and daily reports. And then we hardwire parents into the experience with our parent app. We also have tools that help you schedule. They help you communicate with your employees. So if any of you have ever used Slack or Teams or a messaging app, ours is embedded. And for now, we're actually giving it away. So if you're having difficulty communicating with your staff or the families that you serve, let us know. We're more than willing to help. One of the big reasons we're doing this is to build community. So Beth and I were talking earlier, there's so much data out there and there's so much in media. And from state to state, Beth's in Texas, I'm in New York a part of the time, and Governor Cuomo has been very active with getting back to work and what the plan is and what the standards are and testing. And we all know that as childcare owners and directors and stakeholders, that our worlds are very different, and the new normal is going to be challenging for each and every one of us. So we created a place called KT Childcare Connect, where we are sharing as much unbiased content as possible and having conversations amongst ourselves with each of you. So these are, Beth's in here. There are a number of you that have established yourself as thought leaders, and there are a number of you that are smart entrepreneurs that are in here having these discussions. And we invite you all to join. Again, the Facebook group is called KT Childcare Connect. I'd like for each and every one of you to join. It looks like a few of you are in the process. Also, we know that the webinars have been super convenient for many of us who aren't in the director's office day in and day out, or in classrooms building bodies, souls, and minds, because many of you have a little bit more time away from the center. So the webinars have been super effective, but to think each and every one of you can tailor make your schedule around our schedule and the 2 webinars a week that we're putting out, that's insane. Please join our Kangaroo Time YouTube page, and every time we put up a new webinar, you will be alerted. And we are getting ridiculous number of views. And these are an hour long, so the minutes per week are crazy, but please share these with your staff, with your team. Beth's content today, I think each and every one of your educators should have access to this, but please join our YouTube page. And then Beth, our speaker, I'll get to I'll hand over the reins in just a moment. Please go to bethcannonspeaks.com. There is a ton of content here. She has digital courses. She's an active speaker, so it has links to all of her content. I'll let her speak to that more. But also, Beth, beautiful website. We've already bragged on it. The branding, the colors look so good. So a few more things. So join the YouTube group, join KT Childcare Connect. We will be distributing this week a reopening resource guide. So we're releasing a guide for reopening your centers that we wrote with some industry experts. It includes templates for communicating with parents and staff. All Kangaroo Time subscribers will receive this in their inboxes this week. And what that means is you don't have to be our customer, but as long as you attend our webinars and you're on our list, you'll be getting that. Correct, Genevieve?
That's correct.
Awesome. That's amazing. Okay. All right, guys, please share. We want as many people getting as much of this content as possible. Certificates, they will be sent to you. We have thousands of people that register for these, and it never fails. We always get hundreds of emails right after saying, hey, where's my certificate? Or the next day. You will get them tomorrow. Just save the email. We love you. We want you to get your certificates. You will get them. Q&A. Pop your questions into the question and answers module here in Zoom. Just click the QA button, and in the background, as Beth is presenting, Genevieve and I will either answer questions for you if they're pretty obvious, or we'll queue them for the end and save them for Beth. But other than that, Beth, Beth comes to us with 20 years of experience from the business and education space to the fitness world. Beth's wide range of experience helps her to connect with a variety of audiences. She started her first business called Stretch and Grow International franchise in 1999 and quickly grew it to become the largest, most successful affiliate across the globe. She is the appointed chairwoman and of the Champion Child Advisory Board, author and developer of the Youth Fitness Instructor Certification Program, and the director of corporate training for Stretch and Grow International, the world's leading enrichment program provider for children's center throughout the world. Beth is a master level trainer registered with the Texas Early Childhood Professional Development System. In today's discussion, Beth will focus on communication strategies and opportunities to create and cultivate an environment of support and understanding for your center during the post-pandemic period. Beth, we are so glad to have you and welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. That was what we call the official blah blah, right? That was the official blah blah. The tree, all of that stuff is good and true, but the reason that I think this time has been exciting for me is just to get to connect and pour into my people. I love my people, and so this has been super exciting to be here and to just share. So I am going to talk to you guys today about managing your mindset. And so can you guys see my screen here, Scott, Genevieve? Can you guys see the screen?
We can.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Looks so beautiful.
I like to make things pretty. So when you said that you like the branding, I love that. We rebranded Stretch and Grow last year and went through a process of working with a brand clarity strategist. Her name was Hillary Hartling out of LA, and she was incredible and taught me so much. Because, you know, we as educators, we don't always think of ourselves as business people. And so she really schooled me in what that looks like. So today I want to talk to you guys about motivating and engaging your staff. You know, when I started Stretch and Grow years ago, I was a new mom. Now that baby's graduated from college, so that's been a long time. But I poured into the kids, just like so many of you early educators started. And now my job is to pour into my staff so that they can pour into the kids. And so if you're an early childhood leader, that is where you are. And so today I want to talk to you just about your mindset and how your approach to motivating and developing and encouraging your staff through this is going to make all the difference. So I first want to talk to you guys about, it's just kind of it's really a psychological theory. Like if you go to therapy, they might talk to you about ACT therapy, and all that means is it's the acceptance and commitment therapy. And that means accept what is happening in front of you and then commit to making life-giving choices. And I think where we are right now, we have no choice other than to accept it. I don't know about you guys, but when this first started, I was super Pollyanna because I wanted to be super positive for my team. And I was on my 25th wedding anniversary trip the day that the president declared this a national pandemic. And I came back to day after day after day of my trip, realizing that our business was completely shutting down. And accepting that this dream that I had worked so hard for, just like so many of you have worked so hard to build your center, to build your school, to create community where you are, you know, those things just slowly started shutting down. And accepting what was happening in front of me was really scary. And I had to make some really hard decisions at that time. And I think we all have to decide, what are we going to get out of this time that we're in? Like Scott mentioned, I'm in Texas, and so Texas has slowly began to open up. The stay-at-home orders have been lifted, and so some lights are beginning to come back on, but yet here we are in this world where with fear, so many people are walking in fear, and rightly so. It's not an unfounded fear. And then so many people are ready to get back to work. And so accepting what is happening and then committing to those life-giving choices. And I think one of the most important things that we have to do right now is to just accept uncertainty. You know, the future has always been uncertain, and as leaders, we felt like, we had established goals, and I don't know about you guys, but 2020 was going to be my year. I'm turning 50 this year. It was going to be the year of launching some new things. I had so many speaking gigs lined up, and then systematically, again, every one of them got canceled. And so we somehow think that we have to know what's happening in the future because we think we can control it. And the truth is we haven't really lost anything because we never had control to begin with, even though we thought we had more control than we have right now. But I think if we think we have a plan, it kind of gives us some sort of direction in our destiny. And so I think the very first thing that I want you guys to focus on today is to just begin to accept that these are uncertain times. And as a leader, you're not going to have the answers. And what's really scary is that nobody has the answers. No leaders in our country know, no city leaders know, no one knows what's going to happen in this. And so we are facing uncertainty. And so to be a leader and to really cast your vision, it's like you can't cast your vision without looking into the future and understanding that a global pandemic is forever in our framework. Like both sets of my grandparents were married in 1938, which was of course, in the middle of the Great Depression. And if you're in my age group, you probably grew up with grandparents who saved aluminum foil and recycled Ziploc bags because they grew up in the Great Depression and they didn't know where their next meal was coming from. And so now human behavior has changed. When we thought this was only going to last a couple of weeks and we were going to be back to work by March 30th, we were not prepared that here we sit in the middle of May and we're still kind of in the same boat. So first part of mindset is really just accepting that uncertainty. And then I'm going to break down a few things, and I'm going to give them to you real quick. It's communicate, collaborate, celebrate, have compassion, and then release control. I'm going to break those down, but that's what they are up front. So I want to talk to you about your communication policies. So what are your post-pandemic promises going to be? First, to your staff, and second, to your customers. Getting your team to buy in and get them ready for reentry is a big job. That's a big job. So what are the promises that you feel like you can make to your staff, then in turn make those to your parents? And I think, the big thing is trust. When I started doing some research on this and creating that Survive to Thrive course, I crowdsourced a lot and a lot of my directors. And I said, what is the thing right now that you're most concerned about? And it was almost 90% said, I am concerned about regaining the trust of my families. Can families trust that they're going to bring their kids back to an environment that is as safe and as sanitary as their own living room, with other people's children coming in from all other walks of life and jobs and exposure? And so be clear about what your post-pandemic promises are going to be to your teachers and your parents. And then next, what are your procedures going to be? I know Scott was talking about his job for the next 2 weeks. It is his job to figure out what kind of procedures he can be sharing with you all. What can he be putting on the website and sharing so that you all have the resources that you need and the kind of procedures that it's going to take to create this safe environment. I know in Stretch and Grow in my company, we started with the 3 S's. What are we going to do to keep the kids safe? What are our sanitation protocols going to be? And how can we teach our kids spatial awareness? And, we, of course, we teach fitness and dance and all different kinds of things. And so because we move kids vigorously throughout the classroom, we really have a lot of tips and tools in our trick bag to whip out. And so we're going to have to really be intentional about keeping those kids spaced apart, just as much as possible. And then policies. Every one of you are going to have to update your policies. We're talking about mindset. So take this back to your mindset. When you're looking at updating your policies, you as the leader, it's how you're going to present them. If you come across and say, okay, everyone's going to have to wear a mask. I know it sucks. I know this is terrible. You're going to have to wear a mask. Or you could say, you know what? In this time, wearing a mask is something that experts are telling us that is what we need to do. So in order to follow protocol and help people feel safe, we're going to be wearing a mask. And, you know, it's going to be a cute mask or it's going to be a breathable mask, whatever, however you want to sell your mask, you're going to have to sell the mask. So think about the policies that you can put in place. What is your mindset about those policies and how can you share it? Because guess what? If you're going to be a little cranky about your staff being cranky, remember you set that tone. So focus your mindset on how you can present that in a positive way. And then, of course, your purpose. I want you to remember your why, because in education, we don't always do this because we think we're going to go in or we're going to make 7 figures a year, you know, straight out of the gate. What's your why? Why do you have your center? Why do you want your center? Why do you want to educate little ones? Why do you want to make an impact in your community? What do you want to do, and what's your purpose? And I think you have to go back to your purpose because you're looking at a future that's uncertain. And I watched a video from the Energy Bus guy, and he said, you know, all of our goals are basically, we didn't crush them, they crushed us. The goals that we set for ourselves in January, we're not going to make those goals. And if you are an Enneagrammer or know anything about the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 3, which that's an achiever. And so we work for that dangling carrot. And so we want to achieve. And so if you're goal driven and goal oriented, that's a hard place to be. But I have to go back to, what is my vision? How do I want to make impact with the people that I feel like God puts in my sphere of influence? So those are some ways that you can begin to communicate your mindset. And then next, I want to talk to you guys about collaborating. Now, collaborating, it just means working together. And building is another synonym for that. And starting with your staff, I want you to remember this. You can choose to build each other up, or you can choose to tear each other down. So when you're collaborating with your team, you're working together to collaborate. And you know, when you're planning what your comeback, what your re-entry looks like, I haven't talked to one single person who doesn't think that there are some things that need to change. There are some things that we don't want to go back to, but we have to be strategic about that, because I also think that we all have had pieces and parts of our life, maybe of our business. For me, it was certainly business, to where you feel like you're absolutely just drinking out of a fire hydrant every single day. And I will tell you, and as a leader, if you've been closed, or even if you're open, you're running less staff. One of the things that I feel like I've had to detox from is, just for 21 years, I have woken up to, is someone going to call in sick today? How am I, if someone calls in sick, how am I going to replace that person? Who can sub? Who can help? How can we move things around? And that's a lot of stress, especially from someone who wants to please all of the people. And as leaders, and I'm sure that a lot of you guys, probably an overwhelming majority of you, as is just, demographic in our industry, are women. And as women, a lot of times we want to be people pleasers. And when we can't please all the people, that can create a source of stress. So when you're looking at your team and you're looking at collaborating, I want you to remember 3 things. And this actually came from Craig Groeschel. I listened to his leadership podcast, and he's got a lot of great wisdom. And he said, what do you need to automate, delegate, or eliminate? So when you're looking at things that you can automate, meaning things that you can just fix it and forget it, a resource like Kangaroo Time, for example. So many things can be automated, from communication with your parents to communication with your team. So maybe that's a resource that you want to take a look into, and look at it as an investment in your, an investment in your community, investment in your school, for your families, for your teachers. So what can you automate? Another big automation tool, if you've ever heard me talk, I love Trello. I organize my entire life in Trello boards, and I have so many of them, and they're so pretty, and they're so organized, and they're so functional. That's something I can automate. I can automate communication to my team through that. Delegate. When you're looking at delegating, think about those things that you do not want to return to. Can you delegate them to an assistant? Can you delegate them to a teacher? I want you to think about the things that absolutely drain you, that maybe you could delegate. And you might be robbing someone of the blessing of really living into their calling for handling collections, or dealing with money, or dealing with files. We're all either big picture people, or we're all detail oriented people. And so if you're, whichever one you are, it's great to be able to find someone who can help you and that you can confidently delegate some things to. And then finally, what do you need to eliminate? Are there things that need to go? And I don't just mean in your business life, and I know this is a business talk, but we've got to be real. We are all people with lives who show up to work. And so if it's not a heck yes, then it's a no. So look at your obligations, look at the things that you're doing with your family, with your friends, with your church, with your community. What do you need to eliminate so that you can collaborate with your team? So in your communication, I want you to really focus on how can you bring your team together so that you guys can be more productive. So those are just 3 ways that you can collaborate with your team. And we'll move on to our next C, which is to celebrate. I want you guys to make sure you are celebrating your wins, because if we look at what's wrong with this picture, there's a lot wrong. There's a whole lot more wrong than there is right now. But there are a lot of wins to celebrate. And I always say we got to choose the gratitude over the grind. So if you don't have a daily gratitude practice, I want to challenge you. That more than anything, I think, will help you with your mindset when you choose to focus on the things that you're grateful for. I like to do 3 a day. I journal, and I think it's because I'm so ADD. It's good for me to be still and write down my prayers and my gratitude practice. Just think of 3 things, that you're grateful for, and really focus on those things and celebrate your wins. Celebrate your wins with your staff. I mean, what if a win was the fact that you need your 3-year-olds to wear masks, and today the majority of your 3-year-olds were able to put on the mask? Or maybe you're starting to have parents call for tours and you're having an opportunity to talk to them about your school. Maybe you've decided to pivot in a way that without this pandemic, you would have never, ever thought of doing something that way. And so celebrate your wins and choose gratitude over the grind. And that's going to change your mindset. It's going to change your approach. It's going to change your heart. It's going to change your joy. And one of the things that I was challenged to do a few years ago, and I do this in lots of my conferences, a friend of mine shared this idea with me, and it's to create a joy list and write down 15 things that you enjoy that cost money and 15 things that you enjoy that don't cost money. And I will challenge you to do that. And I will tell you, it will probably take you longer than a day to complete your joy list. And especially if you can't leave your house. I mean, if you're still stuck at, all of those things that bring you joy that cost money, you might not be able to do those things for a long time. Like, I really love family vacations. I've got 2 kids, they're 20 and 21 now. And the fact that they even still want to hang out with my husband and me just gives me so much joy. But that's one thing that right now, that's not possible. So I'm having to choose these things that bring me joy, that don't cause me to leave my house or spend any money. So think about those things and what can you celebrate? How can you celebrate your wins? All right, guys, we've got 2 more. Compassion. There is a segment of our population that think that self-care is selfish, it's self-centered. Why would you need to take care of yourself? We should be taking care of others, especially if we are in the caregiving business. And so being compassionate to ourselves is not something that is always looked upon as favorable. And I want to tell you guys, take that lie and send it away, because you've got to look in and you've got to be compassionate with yourself. You've got to give yourself some grace. When this first happened, Scott and I were talking about exercise habits before we came on here. And I said from the beginning, I'm determined that at the end of this, my pants are going to fit. And I have to be honest and say that there are days that sometimes I just want to have ice cream for dinner. And sometimes you got to have the ice cream for dinner. But I want you to look in and truly be compassionate with yourself. Give yourself some grace. If you screwed up, ask for forgiveness. Admit when you've done wrong. If you snapped, if you've been ugly or hateful, admit it. ask for some grace. And not only, maybe you need to ask for some grace, but maybe you need to be a grace giver. Who in your life needs to be the recipient of your grace? You know, maybe a teacher who's gotten on your very last good nerve and she needs some grace. And that's where you can kind of lean in and show some compassion to other people. If you are a task-oriented leader, and so many of us are, sometimes we're so focused on the task that we forget that we need to invite people along the journey with us to reach that goal, to, you know, to help you live out your vision. And if you don't stop now and lean in to your people, you're missing out on an opportunity to capture them and connect with their hearts in a time that they desperately need to be connected with. Because it's like when this happened, everything was stripped away. We are all at the same starting point. You know, at the beginning, I started a Facebook group for some of my directors because I do lots of church schools, and there were so many different things that were being said and going on, and aid and that was available. And now with some of the new federal programs, if you're a faith-based or nonprofit and you were never eligible for unemployment before, now in most states, your staff can actually be eligible for unemployment. So if you didn't get the PPP loan and you need to take care of your staff, you know, unemployment for the first time might be a great opportunity for you. So it's just little things like that. As I began listening to what was going on in my community, I started to see, wow, there's a real need here. And it's been great to see people in all different kinds of groups step up, share their stuff, give their trade secrets away, give everything away, because out of a true heart of compassion. So when you're thinking about your mindset, and when you're thinking about reopening, okay, because that's what we're talking about here today, I want to bring you back to who needs you to show them some compassion, some grace, some mercy. Is it a teacher? Is it your own family? You know, is it a parent? Because people, we're dealing with things, like I said, we're going to always have this global pandemic thought hanging over our head, and consumer behavior has changed. The way we approach things have changed. So choose compassion. Look inside of yourself. How can you be more compassionate for yourself? Are you taking time to take care of yourself? Are you leaning into your team? And are you really listening to your customers and listening to your community to find out what it is that they need from you? Because as a leader, we've got to be solution oriented. You know, we've got to adapt. And I don't know about you guys, but there are some ways that I am not super loving adapting, and I'm having a hard time listening to some ideas that I don't really resonate with. Like, for example, virtual classes. Like Scott mentioned, part of what I've done since I graduated from high school is I've been a group fitness and a yoga teacher. And so I've spent my entire career getting people, you know, join me at the gym, you know, let's get involved here. We need to get active, find a buddy, find a partner. And then our entire industry has spent the last 10 weeks telling everybody, you can do it at home. Now, why are they going to want to come back to gyms? Same with education. You can homeschool your kids. You don't need to bring your kid to childcare. You can take care of him yourself, and we're going to give you all these resources to do it. And it's coming from a screen. So as a natural born connector and relator kind of person, I like my people. I like to see them. I like to hold them. I like to hug them. I like to touch them. And I think so many of us that are in education and childcare, that is what we like about our jobs. And so, you know, maybe for a minute we do need to pivot with Zoom classes or with some virtual classes. And maybe we need to be okay, but we've got to listen to our community and know what they want. So, all right, guys, moving right along to the last one is control. Like I said in the beginning, we have to accept the uncertainty that we're facing right now. It's a lot. And we used to think we had control over our future, and we never really did. And now we for sure don't, because we don't know what's going to happen. We would normally have the predictability that May is coming up and we're going to have graduations and end of the year celebrations. Those things aren't happening. Summertime's coming up. Kids are going to go to summer school. Kids are going to go to summer camp. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. So we don't know. We don't even know if school's going to happen because we don't know if the big Q is going to come back around and we're going to have a resurgence of this. So think about the things that you can control. Number one, you can control moving your body. When you're moving your body, you change your mind, right? So just choose to move your body every day. Yes, there's 10 bajillion workout classes from yoga meditation all the way up to cardio HIIT classes, but choosing to move your body is so important. Maybe it's just going for a walk. I mean, for me, I have weights sitting right here on my desk so that when I get up from my desk, I grab those arm weights and I do a little bit of arm weights, or I'll do some squats or lunges, or I've got my exercise ball sitting here because I'm not able to leave my house and I'm not able to go to my gym or leave my office. And so I have to make that conscious effort to move my body. And I do want to say this, for those of you guys who had been in the habit of an exercise regimen or moving your body, I hope that you are realizing that you've got to get back to that, because it takes 21 days to create a habit. And we've had a lot of 21 days. We've had like 3 cycles of 21 days. So maybe we've gone up, we've gone down. You get to decide who you're going to be when this is over. And I promise you, you will never regret any movement that you do of your body unless you get hurt. So just be careful and don't get hurt, but choose to move your body 30 minutes every day, whether it's 5 here, 5 there, 10 here, 10 there, or whether you're doing like Scott and you're going on long runs and bike rides. Choose to move your body. So, and then another thing too is maintain a healthy diet. Gut health is so tied to mental health. And I did another webinar earlier this week on managing your mental health through this. And if you're a stress eater, this one is really hard because you're stressed, you're in a very anxious environment. And so you just want to self-soothe in the easiest and quickest and most delicious way possible. So I do want to challenge you this. Do a refrigerator and pantry check. Try to eat as little out of the pantry as possible and as much out of the refrigerator as possible. So that means when you're going to the grocery store, I want you to resist going through the aisles, because usually on the aisles, unless you just need like toilet paper, cleaning supplies, which may or may not be in stock yet, that's where you're going to find your junk food. If you shop the aisles, that's where you're going to find whole food. And one thing that I always tell some of my clients that I work with is, if God made it, eat it. And so, even, lean meats, even dairy, fruits, vegetables, all of those things, maintain a healthy diet and try to really control yourself when you get a chance to go to the grocery store. Because if you don't buy the junk and it's not in your house, you're going to be less likely to eat it. So just maintaining a healthy diet will really, really help you. And don't feel like, oh, I'm going to start on Monday. Like, I'm going to start on Monday, I think is the biggest lie that we ever tell ourselves. Just go by the day. If you had a bad moment doesn't make a bad mama, right? If you had a bad meal, that's okay. Just do better the next time. Don't decide you're going to self-sabotage for the next 4 days until the next Monday gets here. So maintain a healthy diet and then make time to relax. This is going to go back to that having compassion on yourself. When can you disconnect and when can you unplug? There is a myth going around by people who were just like me, who are saying, everyone's home, you have all the time. Well, that's easy for me to say because my kids are in Waco, Texas, which is exactly 73 miles from where I live. My son just finished his sophomore year at Baylor, and my daughter graduated from there last year, and she's actually working. She's an early childhood intervention specialist, and so she is working doing telehealth. So guess what? I don't have littles running around me like I used to when I started my business so many years ago. And a lot of you guys do. You're trying to work, you're trying to homeschool, your kids are out of school. Everything is very discombobulated. So do what you can and know what it takes to relax. Maybe it's Netflix and chill. Maybe it's, sitting down watching a movie. Maybe it's exercising or connecting with girlfriends. I know I've enjoyed some Zoom happy hours with some girlfriends, some Zoom happy hours with some of our friends from church that we do like a small group with. It's great just to kind of see everyone and connect. And that's really relaxing for me. So know what relaxes you, because that's going to help your mindset as well. And then manage your thoughts. You get to think about what you think about. Your thoughts don't just come and you don't just allow them to land. I want you to think of a helicopter, right? Those thoughts can be like hovering over your head, like just waiting to land. You get to decide to redirect your thoughts. And if you don't believe it, that's a lie that you're believing, I think. You've got to stop that toxic spiral of thoughts when that thought first comes. And I will tell you guys, I have struggled for many years with anxiety. I get extremely anxious, especially when things are out of my control. That's the worst time of anxiety, because I like to be in control. And of course, we know we're not in control of anything right now. And so when those anxious thoughts of fear come in, for me, it's having some truth that I can anchor my heart to. Maybe for you, it's a scripture, maybe it's a motivational quote, maybe it's a grounding practice or a breathing practice. And when I say grounding, I mean just find something that is solid, like my microphone here. My microphone, it's solid, it's there. And instead of focusing on my mind, I'm just going to focus on my Blue Yeti microphone right here. So find out what it takes for you to stop that spiral toxic thought process from really taking over. Because if we allow the worst case scenarios to play out, it's not going to be good for your mindset, and it's not going to be good for your mental health. And it's certainly not going to be good for your team, because remember, you're leading a team and they are looking to you to know what to do. You can't be silent right now. Your team is looking to you. So know, how can you manage your thoughts? And I want to go back and remind you, we talked about gratitude. We talked about journaling. The next one is to meditate or to even pray. And if you are a busy, anxious person, you might rather put bamboo shoots under your fingernails than to sit and think about being still or meditating or praying, or, wherever you are on that journey. For me, it's yoga. I feel like in my yoga practice, I can sit, I can breathe. I'm just moving, making shapes with my body, breathing, focusing on what I can control. And so that's really helped me. That yoga has been a big journey for me in my process of getting my anxious thoughts under control. And again, there's lots of great resources out there to do that. And I'm going to even encourage you guys just to do some breathing exercises. One app I'll tell you about, it's called Tide, Tide. I use Tide for two things. It's a Pomodoro app, one, which is a kind of like a time management app, and it'll set a timer for 25 minutes, and it just plays like white noise, like the ocean rolling in. And the research behind it is that our brain cycles in like 25 minutes. So you guys have been listening to me now for a little bit longer than that. So chances are you've cycled out and maybe you've cycled back in. But Pomodoro just helps you get up, go move your body, come back in segments of 25 minutes. But then it also has a breathing app, and you can just put on breathing focus, and you can watch the balloon blow up and you breathe in, and you can watch the bowl go down and you breathe out. So Tide is the app. It's a free app. You can get it on your app store, and that's just a tool that you can use. And then finally, I want you guys to think about your mindset in terms of a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K, wrote about this 30 years ago. And, she did her research a long, long time ago. And basically it tells us that we are cut from two cloths. We either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And I want to focus on the growth mindset before we get back to our group here. That is the belief that you have abilities that can actually be developed. We're all having to pivot right now. And if we hold on to I just want my life back, I just want my school back, I want my families, I want my employees, I want back what I had. And guys, it's not going to ever be the way that it was, because we've all experienced a global pandemic. We're in the middle of it. Things have changed, mindsets have changed, consumer behavior has changed, and things aren't going back. But if you set your mind and you realize that you do have the ability to learn new things, and you can pivot and you can do new things, because if you hold on to the way that you've done business all of these years, that business is going to pass. That ship is going to sail. And, you know, I heard this super great analogy, and I'll end with this, and then we can get back to our Q&A and our conversation. We're not all in the same boat. We are not. So if you hear someone say, well, we're all in the same boat. No, we're not. We're all in the same storm, but we're all in our own boats. And we get to decide how we're going to use that boat to navigate the storm. Are you going to be in a boat that you allow to sink? Are you going to be in a boat with a hole that you need to patch and you're just going to choose to let it fill up and you're going to sink? Are you going to realize that the wind is coming and you need to take whatever you have and make a sail and catch the wind and soar and get out ahead? What kind of boat are you going to be in? And then I want you to think about the people in your boat. You as the leader, you have to be at the head of the boat. You've got to be on the stern. You've got to be pointing the boat in the direction that you want it to go. You can't be back in the back rowing and looking around. You've got to be leading that boat. So what kind of leader are you going to be, and how can you get those people behind you to row in the same direction to reach that vision that you're going to meet? And it all comes back to your mindset. So I hope that has been helpful for you guys. What do you think, Scott?
I think it's an amazing talk that you just gave. For me, the big one of that we aren't going back. You know, they're looking forward. We all have very different lives ahead of us.
Yes.
But I think us that those of us that are super relentlessly focused on building our businesses, building up our staff, like we were talking about before the call, the next 2 weeks, the next 10 weeks, our goals are to adapt and
Right.
understand how to get back and what the new normal is. But with that said, great feedback in the chat.
Good.
So let's get to some questions. There were a couple in here. So Beth, let's start at the top. How will this work with infants as young as 6 weeks to 20 months? We have diapers and bottles. I know today, for whatever reason, my Facebook feed had all these super inspiring videos for early educators in China. And it was really, really cute to see these lines of children that were beautifully socially distanced, children with masks on. They'd walk to a hand washing station. In fact, I'll post a few of those in the KT Childcare Connect Facebook group, because I just think they're oriented the right way to get us all think about new best practices. But what are your thoughts around, you know, the level acuity things like changing diapers and preparing bottles and the new normal there?
Well, you know, I think we've got a lot of experts who are creating policies and procedures with the epidemiology. I mean, we've got to know how can we stop the spread? And so I think it goes back to, you know, being as clean as we possibly can. I mean, you're going to have to change a kid's diaper. Infants don't socially distance, right? Making bottles, you're going to have to make sure those bottles come in. They're wiped down. They're wiped down with a healthy, non-toxic cleaner. You know, they've got to be clean. They've got to be separated. You don't want to cross-contaminate. You're going to have to wear booties or take off your shoes. And I think creating that environment and following the protocols that our experts are going to give us, we're going to all have to get on board, because some people are really like rule breakers in their heart, right? And I think
Some, like, aren't we all kind
Well,
of?
we all have a little bit of that going on. You know, I have a dear friend, her name's Burke. She's here in the Dallas area, and she's running Essential Care right now. And I am watching in awe with her because she's got two-year-olds wearing masks. She's got teachers that are embracing this and what's going on. But again, I applaud her so much because it goes back to, number one, her absolute willingness to not compromise the quality of care. And number two, her willingness to go in with a smile and lead her team in the, guys, I know this is hard, but we got to focus on our vision. We got to focus on our mission.
So one of the things, Beth, again, back to the videos from Asia, I think there was one from Singapore that was really interesting, of an early education setting where you had children with PPEs, and I thought it was interesting. So you had children with, like, you could see comfortable fitting helmets or comfortable fitting hats, and then the clear PPEs. I think there's some stigma around putting a mask on any child and what that does for connection. So
Right.
I think we need to think about that. Another one I saw was each child got to choose a unique hat. You know, whether it's expressing individuality or some other cognitive development principle. I think there are ways to be thinking. The question here, the reason I allude to that was, any advice on masks and how to make it less scary for kids when adults are wearing masks? And I don't know about you, but I have white coat syndrome. I'm married to a nurse. She scares me daily. I'm just kidding. But no, I think I think we all need to be thinking of best practices with normalizing the, PPEs and masks and best practices with sanitation. Any
Right.
thoughts?
Well, and I have to be honest. I haven't been in the centers since this mask, since the mask thing has come about. I'm watching what's happening, and what Corey says with her kids is that their masks have actually become a comfort item. They love their masks, and I love the idea of giving them choices. When kids, we've got to figure out what their currency is, right? What is their currency, that we need them to do this, but they're wanting that? What is that currency? And I love the idea of giving them the freedom and giving them the option and getting them excited about it. Again, it goes back to what our mindset is. And I think as leaders, we've got to start with our staff and get them excited about it. And I would love to see, if you are a children's writer, if you're an illustrator, write the book right now. Like, there's your pivot. You are now going to write a book on a story of kids wearing masks and wearing PPE. Like, whoever you are out there, bring it. I will buy you. I'll buy it. I'll support it. And I will help pay for your book tour.
Hey, Beth, growing up in Dallas, Texas, had you given me the opportunity to wear a mask or facial cover with Dallas Cowboys logo on it, I would have been all in. There would have been, you wouldn't have been able to strip it from me, because and
you know what? And that's right. We have a Baylor football season tickets, and trust me, my son, who he is an entrepreneurial mind too, he's like, we should make Baylor masks. And then, now, of course, now, it's a thing now. So I have a feeling that if we do have college football or professional, any football, any sports going into the year, that masks might really be a possibility for that.
So how do you handle balancing fair and equitable treatment of staff in different circumstances? For example, staff who are scared to return due to health concerns, while others can't wait to get back. Helping each side understand each other and feel like the expectations are for each other are fair. I'll start with this one. So these conversations that we've had on these webinars, we've had an employment specialist, we've had a couple of employment attorneys, so people with law backgrounds. And I think the consensus is those are super delicate conversations. Though, as we looked at numbers and the scenario modeling that you need to understand, there are some inherent bumpers in having those conversations. So if you do have somebody on your team that is medically fragile, I think it's worth the delicate conversation with that staff member to say, hey, we're phasing people back. We don't really understand what the spike will be in this proximity. Do you want to be on the tail end of employees that come back, and let those employees opt into those predicaments, right?
Yes, and I've had those conversations, Scott. I have I have 40 employees. My the one that I've had the longest, I've had her for 16 years, and her 85-year-old mother just recently moved in with her. So she was the first one I called and said, you know, what are your thoughts on this? And she's like, you know, Beth, I love my job, but I'm concerned for my mom. And 1,000%, because I will take her back. If it's a year from now, I will have a spot for her when she wants to come back. But I think we've got to, yes, very delicate conversation, hold space and listen. And I think another thing that's playing in here is the unemployment right now. If your staff is on unemployment, chances are they're making more money on unemployment than they would be if they were to come back to work. And that's another thing that I find a lot of people are facing. It, you know, if you're in the US, there's the pandemic unemployment assistance has kicked in. So they're getting an additional $600. So there's that. And there's been a conversation to say, well, if you invite them back in, you could be economically injuring them. And there is that, you know, there is that process. And I think having those conversations of, I get that, that's only going to last a couple months, and I understand, but this is the job that I have, and I need you, and your kids need you, and you know, and our school is not the same without you. You know, those kids, they've been scared, they've been away from you, they've been disconnected, and they really love you, and they really want you, and they really need to see your face. And you're going to have those who are down with it, and you're going to have those that aren't. And I think being okay that in this season, we're going to lose some people on our team, not because they're not great teachers and not because we don't love them, but they might not be your people in this season. And that's okay. And we have to trust that when we have spots become available, if it's not that person, it's going to be another person. I mean, we've all gone through staff turnover, and this could just be a time for staff turnover. And I think, again, our mindset and being able to say, guys, this is big picture, and I get where you are. Hold space for the ones you can hold space for. If you can't hold space for them, they might not be your people.
To be in is one of those that you would be in typically. So, you know, as a great employer, you need to be willing to make reasonable accommodations for those employees that need very specific components in their work environment. I think the same holds true for a medically fragile employee,
sure,
that might be in danger. And looking at, if that employee insists on coming back, for us at Kangaroo Time, somebody insists on coming back, they have severe asthma and they are in that high risk group, I'm going to find some light duty or some home, you know, work from home, so that we don't endanger a life, you know.
Right.
And I get the zealousy for wanting to come back, and I totally love it and I respect it. But as a leader and as somebody that is responsible for many families, not just our employees, but their families and the paycheck, we have to think forward for those folks. You know, we have to be thinking for them.
Well, and in the school environment, there really aren't very many positions that don't require your ability to physically be in the school to care for those kids or to cook the meals. You know, there are very few positions. I mean, you know, we may be able to move them into an administrative position, but, you know, I think that is absolutely a big challenge for our preschools because of the limited number of positions that are available.
Genevieve, any questions that are common themes?
Yeah, so we have a lot of questions surrounding, um, like what it looks like once you go back, and a lot of things around masks. And we have a lot of great sources that are coming out in our reopening guide that we'll share this week. So we're really just pulling from industry resources in there. So I think that'll be a helpful resource to everybody. And then thank you to everyone who shared a lot of great resources. Somebody shared something for children with autism. Those are great, and we'll share those in our group. So we really appreciate those. If anybody has anything great to share like that, I have a couple links that I'm saving over here that I'll share with our group. We really love that sort of thing because we really just want to help as many people as we can right now, and just sharing everything to go around.
Tell you what, that has been one of probably my absolute favorite thing from this whole time, is to see the world stepping in and sharing resources and just being willing to give freely of themselves. Like, I've learned and I've gained so much from people with that mindset, and it has really, really been refreshing for me.
Much agreed. Well, Beth, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I think the road ahead of us, it seems so daunting. Every day we wake up and for us at Kangaroo Time, we're all in different parts of the country. We're all from home. I miss the faces. I think, as you said, there's a mental health component to this that we all need to be super mindful of. As employers that provide for families, we all need to be setting up our teams so that they can provide love in their homes and ultimately come back and the best that they can be to help us in the efforts that we all join in to build bodies, souls, and minds as early educators. But want to thank you so much. Just the hour of perspective, thinking about things like gut health and exercise and taking care of yourself, and most important, the communication and leaning into mental health and being better for the people that we work for, and as CEOs, as directors, as owners, as heads of classrooms. Nobody works for us, we work for them. But
Right.
The beauty of what we found in the last 10 weeks as we've been doing this is we've learned about how smart, united, disciplined, and loving all of you are, and really appreciate what you've shared with us today, Beth. Thank you.
Well, it was my pleasure, and thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed getting to see your community and would love to serve you guys in any way that we can.
Awesome, Beth. So that means we will have you back, right? So we're going to have to do a part 2, sequel to be announced for sure.
I'm down for it.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Please reach out if we can help any of you. Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.